Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Meet the Experts. Now, if you've done our third age course, you will be familiar with Siobhan, who did a great video for us on the importance of wearing a good bra, particularly as we age. And I thought it'd be good to get Siobhan back for an update and just to talk about, for everybody really, the importance of wearing a good bra, why so many women are wearing the wrong bra, how our breasts change as we get older, and maybe how breast support really is important for musculoskeletal issues, particularly back pain and shoulder pain. So Siobhan, thanks very much for coming back for another chat. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about who you are and how did you get into bra fitting?
Sure. So I started my life as a PE teacher and then got into physiotherapy subsequently with a background with a lot of prevention, and I'm a musculoskeletal physio. I, funnily enough, was working in the UK, and had come across a bra fitting shop called Rigby and Peller, which I happened to be in London one weekend and thought, you know what, I'm just going to go in here, because I'd read about them through Trini and Susanna, actually, was where I'd read about it. And I thought, oh, I've never had this done. And at the time, I was, I guess, 40 odd. I'm like, well, maybe I should have this done. So I went in and was floored, basically. Went in at 34C or 36B. Ooh, what am I? I don't know. Why do I put this bra on? I don't know. I just put it on to cover myself. And came out a 32 double D and thought I was going to be on page 3 of the Sun the next day, because I thought, double D, that's just huge. But outside of that sensation, thought, oh my God, I'm an inch taller. And I was walking, I just felt like I was empowered, and I felt confident, and I felt taller. And I was like, gosh, if that does that for me, and I didn't have any particular postural issues. I was quite active at the time in terms of playing rugby, and so I would have had a lot of extension in my life with the way I was training. And I kind of thought, even with me not being particularly kyphotic, or what I would have thought being particularly heavy, I felt massively supported and taller. So I looked into how I thought that's got to work for patients, and immediately began to think of all the people that how it is, you treat somebody and you work on talking to them about extension with exercises and maybe mobilizing and taping. This what really reminded me of taping people. And then they stand up and they put their bra on or tie their bra or put their top on, and you just see them dropping into flexion again. Yeah. And I kind of thought, wow. So I then looked at how I could become trained in fitting. And to cut a long story short, in the UK, where I was at the time, basically to go via Rigby and Peller, I would have to do a 6-month apprenticeship at their shops.
Wow.
Which I would have loved to do, but it just wasn't feasible. And what amazed me about that experience was when I walked in and went into the changing room, the girl said, just pop your bra off. And she walked out as I was taking it off. And I was like, what's going on here? And she had looked at me, seen me, worked out by eye what I needed, and came back with 2 options. Now, in one bra I was a 32 double D, and in the other I was a 32E. So actually I forgot to say that. And that's also an interesting point that we'll come back to. But so yeah, I couldn't really find a course. And then eventually I found one that was, Leicestershire is very much the lingerie capital of the UK, and found a course that was a bit retail. Yeah, who knew, exactly. A bit more retail focused. Well, it was a fitting course, but I was looking for one that was without a tape measure, because this is what had happened in my fitting. They had just gone by eye, and I was like, okay, a tape measure is bad, was my feeling. And again, there's a reason for that. So I was trying to find a course that didn't involve a tape measure, and that was very difficult. Eventually found one and I learned a huge amount on this course. I was the only healthcare person. Everybody else there was retail. And then I kind of thought, this is great. Now I know what to do. And then I'm looking at my patients and I'm going, yeah, that bra isn't right on you. And I would explain to them why, and I would teach them how they could fit themselves. But then they still weren't coming in the right bra. So I didn't have a solution. I was able to educate them, but I wasn't able to provide them with a solution. Mm-hmm. So what I ended up doing was I did quite a lot of research, and I've partnered up with a lingerie manufacturer again in the UK, I'm based back in Ireland now, and during this period back in Ireland, I've kind of developed this business which I'm calling posture fitting. And what I do is I focus in the assessment, in the consultation with somebody, on their posture and about how being in the optimal bra can help them to be in their optimal posture. So whatever they can get into, in whatever way they can improve their thoracic extension, if that's what they need to do, or change their head position from being forward head. And I know posture is in the dock at the moment in terms of lots of people saying it's not the be all and the end all. And of course it's not the be all and the end all. But I do believe it's a very important element of musculoskeletal health. And I've seen proof of it through what I've done with people. So I've now got in my clinic a range of bras I can fit people with.
And I just think, like just talking about the posture controversy, I suppose, at the minute, because lots of people are saying it's not really relevant for back pain. But I think as a woman, that if you're wearing a bra that doesn't fit you properly, if you've got kind of, some spillage coming out of the cups, or if you've got really thin straps, it's really going to restrict your ability, I think, to move freely. And I think I see a lot of women with ill-fitting bras, and they walk around almost with the arms folded to try and give themselves a little bit of extra support. And I'm wondering what's happening in terms of thoracic mobility, in terms of breathing and heart health. But also I think, where we do know there is a good body of evidence to support posture is actually in mental health. And we know that posture can be a really good indicator. There's a fairly substantial link between poor posture and depression, and even a little bit of anxiety as well. And I think particularly as women move into midlife, and maybe, breast change as we get older, we might gain weight, we might lose weight. And if you're wearing the same bra size that you were 20 years ago, are you really doing the best you can for yourself? And in terms of just being confident in moving through the world and kind of putting yourself out there. Like, why are so many women wearing the wrong bra?
So all of that absolutely spot on. And this is one of the things that I've seen that has really, I guess, surprised me. I wasn't expecting as much of a psychological impact just to deal with that first, as I have seen. So when I have put women in their optimal posture, in their optimal bra, where the bra is supporting that posture, the difference it has made to them. They've stood in front of the mirror and you can see their faces changing. I'll always get them to put their top on so they can see themselves, as they would be walking around in the streets. And people have found their waists. Yeah. Because if you don't have the right bra, we go east and west. And so our breasts lie underneath our armpits. Yeah. So a lot of women haven't seen their waists for a long time because their breast weight is I call it southeast and southwest, or we talk about dipped headlights. And they will go, oh my God, I have a waist. And you can actually visibly see, aside from the fact that they physically get taller, you can see them psychologically getting taller. And that was something that that's a massive bonus for me, not something I set out to kind of, I guess, incorporate in this. But this has happened. And obviously looking better is not something that we're massively focused on. But as you just said,
why not
looks better. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, you're right. Everybody wants
From a
to
mental health perspective, I think sometimes we can get a little bit kind of, oh no, it's just for function, But if a woman feels better about herself, win-win.
Yes, absolutely. And that is totally what I've seen. If somebody looks better, they feel better about themselves. If they feel better about themselves, they're more positive about everything. If they're suffering with pain, if they're suffering with problems, they can challenge that more. They can deal with that better. Oh, it's massive. It's absolute. And you're right. We shouldn't be shying away from it. At the end of the day, this is part of the whole biopsychosocial thing, isn't it? We are helping people to improve themselves in whatever that takes. Yeah, absolutely. So to go back to the why question, which is kind of fascinating. So basically what happens is when a woman, if a woman ever goes into one of the larger department stores that shall remain nameless, if they go in there and they are measured with a tape measure, which is why I was kind of like, oh, I must stay away from tape measure. I don't now. It's a very useful tool. As with many things, it's a tool and not the be all again. But what they do in there is they put a tape measure around your chest circumference, which is the right place to do it, but then they add 4 inches to that measurement.
Why?
Exactly. Why is a very good question. So this fitting technique began back in the 40s.
Okay.
And back in the 40s, so bras kind of began their life, I guess, back in the early 1900s. And in the 30s and 40s, they had developed from the corset shape more into what we're more familiar with now, but there was no elastic.
Oh.
So apparently this technique, which was developed by a man, interestingly, because he was the one designing or manufacturing, I guess, they added the 4 inches so that I guess you could expand your rib cage and be comfortable effectively.
And of course, every woman's breasts are the same size, so we'll just one size fits all essentially when it comes to cup size.
Well, what they actually do, they take it to, I probably misled you very slightly there. They take it to the nearest even number. So if you're an odd number, they'll add 5 inches.
Oh.
If you're an even number, they'll add 4 inches. So, but now, to be fair, this is the way they have been trained, and unfortunately, it's not the fault of the people doing the fitting. No. It's the way they've been trained, it's the way they've been advised to do it. The other thing that I read, which is really interesting about the reason why this happened, is that in the 40s, the desired body shape, whoever decided that, was the hourglass. Mm-hmm. So you're telling somebody they're bigger, so that they're then smaller, so that they're then bigger. So by giving somebody a bigger girth here, they feel they have an hourglass shape. Now, that's apparently what happened in the 40s. But the point is, there are many, many, many places still doing that. And the problem with them still doing that is we now have elastic.
Yes.
We have different bras with different amounts of elastic. We have lots of different fibers. So basically what's happened is the fitting technique hasn't stayed in tune, in step with the manufacturing and with the design. And like you said earlier, straps now, we're looking at wider straps so that there's more support in sport bras, for example, with wider straps. And it just hasn't stayed in step with that. So basically what's happening is people are being given a circumference of a band that is several inches too big for them. And therefore, the cup size is going to be too small, which is because otherwise you'll have too much material.
Sure.
Because the band and the cup relate to each other. So if your band size is larger than you need, then the cup size for the correct fit in that would be larger than you need. So it's a bit mad.
It is. I mean, it doesn't make sense when you explain it like that. Like, Siobhan, how do you know if you're wearing the right size bra or the wrong size bra? Like, what are the telltale signs?
So there are a couple of things. The dipped headlights would be the thing, because then you've no support. 80% of the support, sorry, I'm always poking myself when I'm talking about bras. 80% of the support comes from the band. Okay. So this is where it's so essential to have the band be the optimal for that person. So in the first instance, if we're in the wrong band, if we're in a band that's too big, it'll go up at the back. Okay. And what goes up at the back goes down at the front. Oh. Therefore, your dipped headlights. Yeah. So when we're in the correct band, what happens is it gives us forward projection. So basically, and that is a massive support from the point of view of not overworking the vater scapula, because we're not being dragged down, and not overworking or not allowing scapular protraction to occur, and glenohumeral protraction, because that's massive. You drop into this, then you've got all this kind of impingement potential. So if you're at dipped headlights, that's one of the ways you know you're not in the right bra, and if you're not at full beam, you're at dipped headlights. The other thing is, and I've heard this so many times since I've started this journey, from women is, oh, I don't like a wired bra, it's uncomfortable. No, I won't wear wired bras, they're really uncomfortable. So if a wired bra is uncomfortable on a person, it's uncomfortable because it's the wrong fit. And what the wire will do is it will poke into tissue that it shouldn't be poking into. And that's breast tissue. And breast tissue is sensitive. It's not designed to have wires poking into it. But if we're in the correct fit, the wire sits along your ribs and doesn't impact the breast tissue. And clearly with lymph nodes and milk ducts and all of the, the functional tissue, we don't want that happening.
Can I just ask then, because, one of the things that comes up about underwired bras is, the link potentially to maybe disrupted lymphatic movement. I'm just going to say, like, a lot of people are worried about the link between underwired bras and breast cancer because they compress. And so, like, even beyond that, like, if you see women kind of, fiddling and kind of with the band of their bras, I mean, those are all signs that, first of all, you're not wearing the right size bra. Are there any health and safety concerns about underwired bras?
There's no link between breast cancer and underwired bras. Full stop. And again, I think it comes back to what I was just saying there, which is that if you are compressing sensitive tissue, that's not good for the tissue. So while there is no direct link, because that hasn't been found, and there are so many other variables with women having breast cancer as well, that I think that research, it would be difficult anyway, but there is no direct link. I think exactly what you said, if people are fiddling around with it, then it's not the right fit, and what you want to do is you want to take any pressure off sensitive tissue.
So, Siobhan, can I then ask, if the band is 80% of the support, the straps then are going to be about 20%. Should we go for over-the-shoulder straps or Razorback? Which is better, like, particularly in terms of sport?
I'm so delighted you said that. I absolutely love Razorback. And again, if you can, what I was saying earlier about taping, for me, the Razorback is like a physio taping somebody. And you get your 80% of the support from the band, which is massive. But when somebody ties a bra Razorback, and I've ensured all of the ones that I'm using have Razorback for this reason, when you tie it Razorback, again, you can see visibly that 20% becomes the full 20%. And I would actually say potentially even more, in the sense that the person gets the support. But the most important thing for me is they get the proprioceptive input. And that's massive, because if I'm wearing my bra in a Razorback and I start to do this, then I get that awareness of the straps. And so then I will, and again, remember, this is about improving somebody's posture through them wearing a bra that's optimal. The bra isn't going to improve their posture. The person is going to be mindful and aware of their position. So I do this, and I'm being told there's a little bit of pressure, I'm aware, it's not so much pressure, I can just feel it. So I go back to this, and it's like you take the tension off your head here, and you don't feel that tension here anymore. Same principle.
Fantastic. So in terms of things like head and neck pain or thoracic pain, or I suppose, what we also see a spike of in women in their 50s are shoulder dysfunctions. I know we're moving away from calling them impingements now as well. There's a definite rise in shoulder tendinopathies as women go through menopause, because we know the link between estrogen and tendons. That's well documented. Do you think a good bra is helpful in those situations? I know you're saying, which I think is brilliant, that the bra is not going to do the work for you. You still have to strengthen those postural stability support muscles. But is there any link in the research out there, or have you seen it clinically that getting a good bra fitted can actually help women with these issues?
Well, we've seen that in the research. We see that almost in the reverse, in the sense that where women have had breast reconstructions done, not breast reconstructions, breast reductions done, they have then a decrease in neck pain and a decrease in upper back pain and a decrease in headaches, and that is as a result of having less breast weight
Yes.
to deal with. And my feeling is, if we were supporting that breast weight pre or post-op, very often pre-op isn't done well enough, is the way that I feel about it, because I don't think people have enough awareness of the fact that they may have been in the wrong bra all their life. And if they've reached a point that they're looking at reduction surgery, which is very common, far more common than we may realize, then, you know, they probably have been through a lot of mental health issues with it as well. And it's a big decision to have surgery. And again, if we can avoid that person having surgery, great. But if they still need to have the surgery, it's really important to support them through it. And what you don't want is them to have a reduction to a size that they're still not supported in. Yeah. So they're better than they were, but they could still be better. So there is research that shows that being better supported will decrease or will decrease the forces, if you like. Yeah. From a physics perspective, that it decreases the forces. The University of Portsmouth and in the UK, and the University of Wollongong in New South Wales, they both have two breast research groups who are very, very active, and fabulous research coming out of both of those places. They've looked also at the prevalence of the impact of breast weight on women exercising. Yes. And it's massive. Yeah. It's much more than we realize. And also, you know, as physios, as healthcare professionals, we know how important exercise is. We know it's non-negotiable, as you say, with menopause. I love that expression. And women do not want to exercise because they don't feel their breasts are supported. Yeah. You're talking about a 1 centimeter velocity up and down displacement when we're walking, which can go up to 11-12% when we're running. Wow. So it averages 7-8%, but obviously it varies for different people. But Portsmouth, they have recorded 11.7 centimeter vertical displacement. 2-step star jump, nearly 19 centimeter displacement. So we're talking about a lot of movement happening that we can support in order to allow a woman to exercise and to get what she needs on a daily basis for quality of life, and also massively important for breast cancer survivors and breast cancer patients.
Yeah, I think that's really important, you know, because we know that if you've had a mastectomy, if you've had breast conserving surgery, if you've had reconstruction, it's really important that we do get women moving and exercising again, because not only to counteract the effects of breast cancer treatment, but also we have pretty good evidence that not only can exercise decrease the risk of recurrence, we know that up to 50% of breast cancer survivors actually die of heart disease because of breast cancer treatments. So if we can get rid of any barrier to exercise that we can control, I think we have to grab that with both hands, literally.
Yeah. Yes, completely.
Moving again.
And the other thing, information that came out of Portsmouth is teenagers.
Yes.
And so right at the time when we're looking for people to create those positive habits, so that they have, by the time they're getting into their perimenopause, they're already established exercise. You know, they have an established exercise kind of routine or are involved, and they're not then, you know, being told, oh, now you need to start exercise. We need to grab young people when they are at their, you know, when they're formative. Absolutely. And educate them into being able to exercise, and whatever barriers there are to preventing them from exercise, we need to be dealing with that when they're teenagers as well. And again, with the, you know, as you were saying, our breast size changes throughout life stages. So, you know, it's obviously very obvious as a girl is going through puberty, she's going to get bigger. But then, as you said, weight gain, weight loss, that's going to change things. Pregnancy changes it. Breastfeeding changes it. Menopause changes it. And a lot of women don't know that their breast size changes, and they will wear the same bra all the time because they don't know that they shouldn't.
Siobhan, how often should women get fitted for a new bra? Is it like getting your eyes tested every couple of years, or, you know?
Ideally, we would say every 6 months, but
Wow.
realistically, every year is, yeah. But it's simply because, and I suppose there's a better way to put that other than it being a chronological issue. It's more about if you're going through life stage changes, then you absolutely definitely should be fitted, because those changes are going to be changing the size of your breasts. If you're educated in how to fit yourself, then if you like, you know when you need to change your bra, you know how you can just go and get a different one off the shelf and go into the changing rooms and try it on and look at the different criteria and know that is your optimal fit.
Because I think different brands, I think it's worth pointing out that different brands, like a 32 double D in one shop is not necessarily the same size as a 32 double D in another. So you have to try them on.
And just completely, and just to make that even more, you know, I mean, I don't know why simple things in life are made so complicated, but within the same brand, you will be different, different size. So I have 3 bras from the same manufacturer that are 3 different sizes, and they are all my optimal fit. But just it depends on the amount of elastic they have in the band. So in one, I'm a bigger band, and in another, I'm a smaller band. They have lots in one and less in another. The cup size, the cup shape also makes a very big difference. So you could have a very full breast and then you need a full cup cover, something like a balconette or a demi, which would be kind of the half. You'd potentially be spilling out over, even if you're in the right fit, because you just need more coverage because you have more breast. And you know, after breastfeeding and during the ptosis phase of life, not necessarily menopause, but of life, that's where the dipped headlights are kind of an issue. We lose some breast weight here, so we can become a little bit more fuller in the lower part of our breast and then more shallow in the top, and that can make a difference then for the cup shape that you choose. So yeah, there's a lot, and this is where, you know, when I was looking for a solution for my patients, this was where I struggled, because there was nowhere that I could confidently send them and say, you go there and you will be optimally fit. And then I thought, you know what, why don't I do it? Because I'm going to do it with a focus on your health and with a focus on how I can improve, you know, how you feel in lots of different ways. And that's basically where it kind of evolved. And the response has been fab. And it's just great that that you can impact somebody with something so simple.
Yes.
You know, and it's almost a no-brainer. When you start to do it, you kind of go, why don't we cover this? Why don't we do this when we're trained? Like, why don't we learn about this? Well, so that's why I've set up my postgrad course.
It's really important, I think, that we do. And I'm going to put this out there, like, particularly for the women's health physios, you know, it's more than just what's happening in the vagina. You know, there's a whole woman attached to that pelvis. So it's really important, I think, that we do look at that. And for movement professionals and fit pros, you know, anybody working with women, I think just to be aware that this is it's a fairly simple fix that you can have major changes with, you know, in terms of, again, just getting women moving confidently and comfortably in their own bodies. So Siobhan, you teach other people how to do this. Where can people find out more about the courses? If they're in Ireland, they can come and see you. And I know you're running a course in Ireland coming up fairly soon. So give us all the information.
Okay, so I've established a workshop which I've called Gals Against Gravity. So we're setting up a Gals Against Gravity community. We will overcome gravity, I'm determined. So my next workshop is in just outside Athlone in Kilbeggan, County Westmeath. That's on December the 8th. And I offer these workshops. At the moment, I've just been doing them in Ireland, but the plan is to bring them to the UK. I've actually had contact from somebody in Australia who's very keen to look at it. Yeah. So it is something that I think it should be worldwide. We should have physios all over the world, you know, being able to do this, because it is, as you said, a simple fix. I also want to try and get other healthcare professionals educated in the need for it, and that they could then refer to physios. So I've got a website which is www.posturefittingphysio.com. And on that, we're going to, you know, hopefully have people sign up to the newsletter and be able to do blogs and disseminate some information via that. There's information on there as well about the training courses for physios. At the moment, I'm just doing it with physios, because I think we're the ideal people because of our mechanical knowledge, because of our biomechanical awareness, because we're familiar with proprioception. I think we are the best people to be offering the service. So at the moment, the training courses are open to physios. I really just want to try and get out there and just get the information out there, because I think once women know how to fit themselves, then they have an ability for the rest of their lives to do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, if they choose to come back and be fitted again by their physio, that's great, but they have that information, and that for me is, you know, that's the important thing. When I started this, I looked back and I went, why was I wearing 34C? Why was I wearing 36B? And the reason why I was wearing them was because that's what's selling in the shops.
I think as well, Siobhan, you know, the last time we talked, you know, you left a parting statement that kind of stuck with me, and it's something that I've been telling a lot of people about since, is that if you get to the end of the day and you're taking your bra off and you're going, oh, such a relief to get that off, you're wearing the wrong size bra. So for anybody listening, if you're expressing those sort of sentiments, you need to get in touch with Siobhan, check out her website, and go get a proper bra fitting done. Siobhan, that was like amazing. So much great information there. And the next workshop is on December 8th, but hopefully coming next year in the UK and further afield. But people can visit the website and sign up for newsletters and get all the information there.
Yeah, and I'm quite happy to come to clinics if somebody has a number of physios in their clinics. I'm talking to a couple of people about going off doing the clinic, doing the workshop with them. Yeah. So I'm quite happy to go wherever I need to go to get the word spread. The more gals we have against gravity, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Fantastic. Thanks a million for chatting, Siobhan, and we will see you soon. And best of luck with the venture in the new year.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks.